Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Am I audible to everyone? Thank you. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Thank you very much for joining today. So today I will talk about, we'll continue our discussion about the topic of humility as humble power. And am I audible to everyone clearly? So we have been discussing humility from multiple perspectives. So right now, I discuss humility in terms of personal growth. And that was humility as, do you remember what we discussed? Curiosity. Be eager to learn. Now, I'll talk about humility in terms of relationships. And here, we're going to talk about maturity. Let's look at this particular verse over here. This verse is describing how different people grow in their spiritual life. I'll explain the meaning of the verse and then we'll recite the verse and then we'll discuss. So, Krishna is describing the yogi who has practiced spiritual life in the previous life and is now continuing. Tatra tam, tatra means thereafter, in the new life, tatra tam buddhi sanyogam. Purva abhyasa. Purva is past, abhyas is past practice. Tena eva. By that, certainly, by the previous practice, certainly. Purvabhyasena tenaiva. Riyate. Riyate means attracted. That the heart, hridaya, riyate. The heart is attracted. Riyate here, certainly, avasho. It's almost helplessly. That person feels as if this attraction is beyond my control. Riyateya avasho saha. Saha is that person. So by the one's past practice, that person is forcefully attracted towards transcendence. Riyateya avasho saha. And then how does that attraction manifest? Jigyasur. That person becomes highly inquisitive. Api. About what? Yogasya. About yoga. Here it's not just Ashtanga yoga or a particular form of yoga. It is yoga means connection with the ultimate reality. Jigyasurapi yogasya. Then Shabda is scripture, but here specifically it refers to the Vedic texts which talk about karma kand, which talk about living piously so that we can have a good material life. Shabda Brahma, that is the Vedic scripture, ati vartate. That person goes beyond that. That means that person starts looking for something beyond material good. Shabda Brahmati vartate. Purvabhyasena tenaiva. Riyateya avashopi saha. Jigyasurapi yogasya. Shabda Brahmati vartate. Purvabhyasena tenaiva. Riyateya avashopi saha. Jigyasurapi yogasya. Shabda Brahmati vartate. Last time together. Purvabhyasena tenaiva. Riyateya avashopi saha. Jigyasurapi yogasya. Shabda Brahmati vartate. Thank you. So in this particular chapter, in this here, the theme that we are going to discuss is about one aspect of maturity is non-judgmentality. Is that we accept people where they are. What this verse is essentially saying is that different people are at different places in their spiritual journeys. And because they are all at different places, so some people, if we consider, so this is the journey, this is material consciousness. Better now? And say this is spiritual consciousness, which culminates in Krishna consciousness. So now we could say this is a journey on which every soul is ultimately meant to go. But this journey, we could say, happens over multiple lifetimes. It bahunam janmanam ante. And while in principle we can draw this journey this way, it does not have to be like that. It could be like this, and then it takes off. Again it flattens out. That means that different people may grow differently on the spiritual path. It could even be a little more complicated. Somebody goes up, then flattens. They don't really go down. I'll explain why. But they may flatten for some time. And then go up, again flatten. And then they can have a long, straight talk. So it is that the spiritual journey can be somewhat zigzag. In a particular lifetime, the person may go very fast. In another lifetime, the person may go slowly. So sometimes when we are trying to help someone, we think that in one lifetime, we will force-pull the person all the way from here till here. It is difficult for us to push ourselves also. What to speak of pushing others. But this understanding that we are all on the same path, this is a very valuable understanding. Now, later on Krishna will talk about something more, that if we consider, now we could talk from other perspectives, because the people are not just unidimensional creatures. See, somebody, if we consider, people can be in 4 broad quadrants. If we can say this is material progress, and say this is spiritual progress. There are some people who may have done punya in their previous life, because of which they are materially progressed. That means they may be wealthy, they may have very high IQ, they may have good looks, may be very smart overall. They are materially very on the path of progress. They have the assets for material progress. And simultaneously, they may also practice some bhakti in the previous life. Then, such a person will say in this quadrant. Now, there could be one person over here. Somebody could be materially progressed because they have done some karma, but they may not be spiritually progressed. That means here, the idea is, they have material assets and they have spiritual attraction. So, Krishna talks about this in one of the previous verses when he says that such people are Chuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yogo Bhrashto Vijayate. He says that they were born in a wealthy family, they are born in an aristocratic family, born in a learned family. So they have material assets and spiritual attraction. Or somebody else may have, they have material assets, but no spiritual attraction. Now, what would be over here? Somebody may have no material assets, but somebody may have spiritual attraction. So, for example, some devotee might be very dedicated to the service of the deities. Sometimes we go to Vrindavan or some holy places. There are some pujaris, since maybe their parents were pujaris and they grew up to learn that worship, and 50, 60 years, they've just been doing the worship of the deities in a small temple over there. It may not be a famous temple. Nobody knows about them. Nobody glorifies them for being a great devotee. And so they have no material, that because it's not a very big famous temple, so they don't have much wealth. Not for themselves, even that they're not very famous because the temple is not famous. But still they may have spiritual attraction. So somebody, if they have not done for some, whatever be the reason, whatever their past life, sometimes in past life a person may not have much material assets. In the 10th canto, there is one character who is like this. No material assets, but much spiritual attraction. Who is that? Yeah, Sudama. Now, of course, we could say that Krishna gave him a lot of material assets. That is Krishna's intervention. But he had great spiritual attraction, but he had no material assets. And what will be the last quadrant? No material assets, and no spiritual attraction. श्याम सुंदर भगवान की जय. So the reason for analyzing this in this way is to recognize that this situation of people at different places, it is not necessarily determined simply by their free will alone. Now, if somebody is not developing spiritual attraction, I think this person has no seriousness in bhakti. Maybe, maybe not. So there are people who may have already started practicing bhakti in their previous life and they're continuing on from there in this life. There are others who may be just starting off in this life. So generally, when we look at people, we cannot avoid, in one sense, judging people. It is natural. Say, if we come to a particular program, and then we look around, there are so many people, we want to talk with someone. Now we may decide that, okay, I have limited time, I have 20 minutes. I can talk with 2-3 people. 5 minutes I'll talk with each person. So we look around and decide, maybe we'll look at their appearance, maybe we heard them talking. We'll decide whom I want to talk with. That's just natural. We have finite time, we have finite resources. Some people say, don't ever judge anyone at all. Be equal to everyone. Well, absolute equality is an impossibility. There may be some left-wing liberals who say, treat everyone equally. Okay, fine. Suppose you want to get married. No, there is a teeming mass of humanity. Just treat everyone equally, just pick up anyone and make them your partner. Nobody does like that, isn't it? Yeah, in principle, we accept that everyone is a human being, that everyone, from a spiritual perspective, is a soul, a part of Krishna. In that sense, we treat everyone equally. But from a functional perspective, a judgment, there's a difference between making judgments and being judgmental. And I'll talk about the difference shortly. But if we consider, when we are interacting with people or interacting simply with others. Now, what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Panditaha Samadarshinaha. It's a very important verse. It is Samadarshinaha, equal vision. One sees everyone equally as a spiritual being, beyond biases of race, religion, gender, age, nationality. We see everyone as a spiritual being. At the same time, Krishna is using a specific word. It is darshinaha, samadarshinaha. It is not Samavartinaha. It's not that we can act equally towards everyone. Suppose we in our house, we suddenly see some cat has come and that cat is going toward the kitchen and drinking some milk. When we see the cat, we might clap and the cat will run away in fear. If we come in our house and we see a big cat, we say tiger over there. Now, if we clap, we will go away. So, there is the English word discernment, distinguishing or discerning, that is required. So, if we do not discern, if we trust everyone equally, well, not everyone is a good person. Some people may be manipulative, some people may be cheaters. So, if we just start trusting everyone, we will end up getting cheated. So there is a difference between being nice, that is not the same as being naive. We want to be nice in the sense of being polite. Yeah, be polite with everyone, be kind to everyone, don't be rude to anyone, just based on externals. But naive means it's almost like witless. The person lacks intelligence. And such a person will be exploited, cheated. So when we are interacting with people, one extreme is a person has no judgment at all. So such a person will be exploited sooner or later. On the other hand, the person is judgmental. Judgmental means what? That they just get a particular opinion about the person and they reduce the person to that opinion. That means, say, if I am here and the other person is here, now I will have some opinion about that person. Okay, this person sounds to be like a nice person. Maybe I want to know more about this person. This person sounds a little bit self-important, a little pompous. Okay. So, unless I have to, I don't want to spend time on it. We cannot avoid this judgment. It may be based on also, okay, I'm new over here and this person seems to be a little scary. This person seems to be a little friendly. I want to spend some time with this person. So, this is making judgment. When we make judgments, it is based on what is favorable and what is unfavorable for us. So if I am sick, or say if we know there is a pandemic and we see somebody is coughing, then we don't hate that person, but we may say, better let me keep a distance from this person. So that can lead to shaming people, but we're not talking about shaming people. It's just a judgment based on what is favorable for me and what is unfavorable. This is fine, but this is, you could say, this is making judgments. I already wrote that over there. But apart from that, there is something different. I am here, the other person is here, and I put the label not as my assessment, but this becomes my label that I fix on that person. That means as soon as I see someone, I start thinking, this person is short-tempered, this person is irresponsible, this person is forgetful, this person is like this, this person is like that. And now in this case, what is happening? This is based not so much on what is favorable or unfavorable for me, but this is, in one sense, we are being judgmental. It's like we are putting that person here, this label is around that person, and we are putting ourselves on a superior level. We are looking at down. So here, this kind of labels are primarily centered on superior or inferior. And quite often, we form negative labels on people. Now, these labels, when we have formed them, they may have some basis. They may have some basis in the sense that, okay, we might have an interaction with some person, that person, when we interacted once, that person was not polite with us. Okay, we may say this person is a rude person. Maybe, maybe not. All that we can say, yeah, in my experience, this person was not very polite. But to say that this person is a rude person, and then when we label, we are reducing that person to that label. It's thinking that, okay, this is the only attribute of this person. This is how biases occur, prejudices occur. If a person is belonging to a particular race, then they must be violent. If a person is belonging to a particular religion, then they must be extremist. If a person is belonging to a particular community, they must be miserly. If a person is belonging to a particular region, they must be cunning. Whatever. We all have, or if a person belongs to has a particular kind of dress, that person must be foolish. Whatever. We all have labels. So we are reducing people to a particular label. This is unhealthy. Now, this can happen in material life. This can happen in spiritual life. Yes, now it could be that assuming that these labels have some truth to them. Meaning that, yes, it's not just something externally we impose on them. There are people who are less smart, there are people who are more smart. There are people who are kind, and there are people who are harsh. That is true. But the fact is, people can change. So, when is being judgmental has three characteristics to it. First is, we affix a label on the other person. It is not my assessment, okay, I didn't find this person very helpful. That is one thing, but this person is terribly unhelpful. It's a label is fixed on that person. Not only, it's a reductionistic, reduce person to label. This person like this, how can that person have any good? Must be a terrible person. And third is, treat label as permanent. So Srila Prabhupada made judgments. Srila Prabhupada sometimes would use words like fools and rascals. But Srila Prabhupada was also able to see. There's one lecture of Srila Prabhupada where he says that Krishna, he says the pure devotee prays to Krishna. Krishna, all these fools and rascals are lost in the material world. Please give me the intelligence to bring them to your lotus feet. So Prabhupada is seeing, okay, that presently they are misled, they're lost in materialism, but he's seeing beyond that they are souls. His label is not a reductionistic label. Sometimes what happens is, we may fix a label like this in ourselves also. I am what is the common saying we say? I am a fallen soul. Sometimes what happens when we use it, this fallen becomes so big that the soul is forgotten. I am a fallen. Well, okay, we're fallen or elevated, we are all souls. And every soul is a part of Krishna. If Prabhupada had biases, because the early people who came to Srila Prabhupada, they were part of the counterculture. Now, counterculture, among the counterculture was, see, this is the main culture. Main culture of America was that there's a great American dream. You get an education, you get a good job, and you have your own house, you have a family, you have a nice house with a picket fence and a garden and a row house, something like that. That was the dream, that's the great American dream. That was the main culture. And now opposed to that was the counterculture. People in the counterculture, they said, what's the point of all this? It's all temporary. Many of these people, they grew up having all this. Because after the Second World War, America became quite wealthy. So they said, we don't need all this. We already have this. This doesn't have much meaning in life. We want something more. So they stopped caring. They stopped caring for a career, education, or relationships, or home, or social status, at least status in terms of the mainstream culture. And within the counterculture, there's a small group of people, much, much smaller. They were the hippies. The hippies were people in the counterculture who not only revolted against the counterculture's values, but they also thought that we'll take drugs. And these people in the counterculture, they were seeking something more than what material life was offering. So in that sense, they were spiritual explorers. So counterculture, they were spiritual explorers, but the hippies were drug-driven spiritual explorers. That means they believed that taking drugs will make them go high. Has any of you heard this word LSD? Isn't it? It's very so it's a drug. But those people who had taken this drug, it was a chemical name, LSD, but they give it a new full form. They said anybody who takes drugs, that person joins the League of Spiritual Discovery. So these were the people, we could say, because they were part of the counterculture, they were people who, in one sense, were rejected by the West, by Western mainstream society also. From the Indian perspective, the West is often considered culturally degraded. But the counterculture was considered degraded even by Western standards. So their only regulative principle was to break all regulative principles. And now this is not to mock them, but the point is, many of them were spiritual seekers. But the point was that they were misled about how to seek spirituality. If Srila Prabhupada had been biased, he could have seen so many disqualifications in these persons, they take drugs, they're completely unrestrained in their sexuality, they're this, they are that. And he could have condemned and rejected them. But Prabhupada saw the spark of spiritual inquisitiveness. And then he fanned that spark. He encouraged. So the idea is, Srila Prabhupada was not in that sense biased. So we are talking here about humility, and especially talking about the power of humility. So we could say humility means, there are many ways to understand, but in this particular, we're talking in terms of relationships. Humility means that there is the appearance of a person and there is the substance of a person. So appearances, that how they are seen by us with our eyes. So humility means to understand that the substance of a person is far bigger. The substance of the person may be, not necessarily is, may be far better or far different from their appearance. By seeing how people appear, we are going to make some judgment about them. We can't avoid that. But we don't think that my first judgment is the actual level of the person. We all make judgments. See, if we have been born and brought up in a culture where, say, in our home, everything was very neat and tidy, and then we meet someone whose room is like the embodiment of disorder. Some people, as soon as they come into a house, they have the vibhuti, the special power to make the cleanest house totally disorderly. And the most annoying is that they make things untidy and they don't even notice that things are untidy. Now, immediately, what a terrible person, what a messy person. It could be. Now, certainly that's not that being disorderly or untidy is not something to be proud of. But at the same time, okay, this person might be untidy, but they may have some other good qualities. So based on our upbringing, based on our likings, certain things strike to our eye. When I'm saying appearance, it's not just how people dress, it's not just the looks of a person. For us, certain things strike. So there is the appearance of a person, and based on that appearance, we make some judgment about that person. But when we are judgmental, then that assessment that we have made, that judgment we have made, that is permanent, that is irreversible, that is final. Whereas, okay, this is my understanding, this is my impression of this person, but maybe there is more to this person. So now this, that's why if you are naive, we'll say, I'll never make any judgment about it. If, say, if we entrust some responsibility to someone, maybe, okay, we are distributing books, you handle the cash for the books, you handle the Lakshmi. And then they just forget the Lakshmi. They forget the bag somewhere and go. And now, you'll say, okay, I will not judge you. Okay, you know, if you will not judge this person, then somebody else will judge you. Isn't it? If you give them the same service again, if they're forgetful, some people are just forgetful about things. They're forgetful, then you have to decide, okay, maybe you're not suitable for this service. If some people, they have no musical sense. And when they say, okay, you know, I will not sing, I will not do any kirtans, that's fair enough. But some people have no musical sense, and they have no sense that they have no musical sense. Like, sometimes a kirtan is going on, somebody comes and picks up a kartal and starts playing it. And they are not playing it properly, but they don't even notice that they're not playing it properly. So they are in ecstasy, but everybody around them is in agony. So at such times, we can't say that I will not make any judgment. You know, saying you don't have to play kartal. We have to gently say that, something like that. So we have to make judgments at times. Especially if we have responsibility. If we have some service to get done, then we have to make judgments. But that is different from being judgmental. So here, now we can say, why is this person like this? I started by talking about this was Purvabhyasena Tena. So the connection over here is where people are right now. It is their particular place is they are on a journey. They are on a journey. And okay, so if you consider in terms of this particular thing I was talking about, in terms of spiritual growth, somebody might be over here and somebody might be over here. Somebody might be way ahead, somebody might be way below. In terms of spiritual growth, in terms of spiritual dedication, or we could say in terms of material abilities. Somebody might be having a very high IQ. Material abilities can be in terms of some talent, some IQ. Somebody might at a particular level, somebody may be at another level. So, where people are, that is undoubtedly important. But more important is where people are aiming. What are they seeking in their life? That is more important. So, Srila Prabhupada, in one sense, when he looked at many of the people from the counterculture, the hippies, where people are at a material level, they were very, very degraded. But where are they looking? They are looking toward Krishna. Prabhupada would say at that time, even Prabhupada was in India, because Indians were so infatuated by the West. Prabhupada said Indians are this close to India, Krishna, but they are looking away from Krishna. Western people are this far away from Krishna, but they are looking toward Krishna. So Prabhupada knew, even though Srila Prabhupada at that time preached in India for several years, for almost 4 decades, did not get much response. But that did not make Prabhupada bitter about Indians. Okay, they are right now looking away from Krishna. But still they are close to Krishna. Still they are close to Krishna. So this was Prabhupada's vision. Prabhupada could see good in everyone. Even when those who did not really help him much, he saw good in them. Of course, later on, Indians helped him a lot in the 1970s in terms of helping him build the temples. So, if we understand that everyone is on a journey, then yes, we look at where they are, but we understand that this is not their permanent place. They will be moving ahead. And if I can help them move ahead, wonderful. But if I can't help them move ahead, then let me not push them down from where they are. Let me not condemn them for where they are. Because if I condemn them, then I'm not seeing that Krishna has a plan for them also. And Krishna is in their heart and Krishna is guiding them. So, humility means in this context to see if it's spiritually informed humility, that people's present position is not their permanent position. Is the present position, it is real, it is there where they are, but it is not necessarily their permanent position. So, if we understand this, so today I might be a leader in a community and somebody else might be just a new person coming as a devotee. But who knows, 10 years down the line, I may find that this person already had practiced a lot of spirituality in their previous life. And now they just take off. They take off and then we say, hey, this person becomes so serious about bhakti. What happened? How did that happen? Well, it just manifested at a particular time. So that way, if that person is a new person, we may have some role of guiding them, sometimes instructing them, sometimes correcting them. But we don't do it in a mood of superiority. And we don't do it in a mood of domination. This is my service to you. I do it as a service, and then we help that person grow. Now, who knows how fast that person will grow? Some people will grow very fast, some people will not grow not that fast. Sometimes, if you look at the Prabhupada's way of functioning in terms of the spiritual journey, among Prabhupada's followers, there were two broad demographics. There were largely his Western disciples. These were very dedicated devotees. They left their homes. Once they had already left their homes. Prabhupada said that once he told his disciples that he had already done Sarva Dharman Parityajya. I told you how to do Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. They had given up everything worldly, but they didn't know what was higher. Prabhupada gave them that. So they were, in one sense, very dedicated. And Prabhupada appreciated them. Prabhupada was so pleased with them. But then Prabhupada also had his Indian life members. Now, many of these people did not become the devotees in the ISKCON sense of the word. Very few of them became initiated. Very few of them came to the level of, say, chanting 16 rounds every day. But Prabhupada accepted them. Prabhupada appreciated them. Prabhupada engaged them. And they helped in their own ways. Without many of their help, most of the temples in India, at least what were built during Prabhupada's time, would not have been built. The Juhu temple, the Vrindavan temple, the Mayapur property. Mayapur not so much, but especially in Juhu, many of them helped. Many other places also, they helped a lot. And of course, Prabhupada gave them the facility to come here, the higher level. The facility he gave them his books, he invited them to come and stay in the temple, experience the temple atmosphere. And by that, if they wanted, they could rise up. But Prabhupada did not make them feel guilty for where they were. He accepted them where they were and he engaged them from where they were. Now, if you see, whereas these two were the primary demographic who were following Srila Prabhupada, today, most of our movement is somewhere in between. We have what we can say as congregation devotees. Now, these Western disciples, we could say they were full-time devotees. So the congregation devotees are far more dedicated than the life members. It's not that just that they give some donation and once in a while they come to the temple and they expect to be honored in the temple for the donation they give. No. People who are coming to temple to do services, taking serious responsibilities. At the same time, they're not full-time devotees. They have their homes, they have their families, they have their careers, they have their social lives. So we cannot expect these devotees to be like temple life, not like full-time devotees. It's not practical to expect that they should be able to come for the full morning program or they should follow all the temple standards which are followed by full-time devotees. Now, in one sense, this demographic was absent during Srila Prabhupada's time. But these are also serious devotees. Now, for these devotees also, the facility to rise to a higher level should be there. Some devotees may decide, okay, I want to retire early and then I want to do full-time service. Maybe in the local temple, I want to go to Vrindavan. Or maybe I can take after I'm financially stable, I can take a less demanding job. I can do more seva, I can do more sadhana. That's a wonderful aspiration. And that needs to be facilitated. But at the same time, we cannot guilt people into rising higher or rising faster. Everybody will rise at their pace. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in one of his letters that humility means to not have expectations from others. He said that is very difficult. He said, how can we not have expectations from others? But he elaborates that humility means to not be attached to our expectations from others. It is so. In one sense, expectations are natural. In any relationship, if we do something, we are offering something for the person, we expect that from that person. Now, if we are parents taking care of our children, we have certain expectations from our children. But when there is attachment to the expectations, that is when the relationship starts getting strained. If you don't do this, then I will reject you. I will condemn you. If you don't do this, I'll make your life miserable. If you don't do this, I will make you constantly feel guilty. I first spent the first 10 years of my brahmacharya life in Pune. Then I was in Mumbai for about 7-8 years. Then after that, I've been traveling. So there was one devotee from Pune. I knew him quite well. He was the son of a congregation devotee. And he hardly ever would come to the temple. Some people say, you meet them, they say, I come regularly to this temple. Really? Wonderful. How regularly? Every Janmashtami. That is their level of regularity. It's good at least they're coming at Janmashtami. So he would hardly come to the temple. Then he came to America and I met him at the Bhakti Center in America, New York. And he was coming almost every second day to the temple. At least a week he would come twice. And then I talked with him, what was the difference? What inspired you to come to the temple? He said, every time I would come to the temple, somebody or the other would ask me, how many rounds are you chanting? And at that time he was not chanting 16 rounds. And he said, people would make me feel, if I'm not chanting 16 rounds, it's like I'm doing a sinful activity. I didn't want to feel so guilty. I just stopped coming. But here, when he came to America, okay, he is born as in a devotee family. He knows about bhakti. Just welcome, come to the temple. He participated in kirtan, started doing some seva. So when that expectation that you should be chanting 16 rounds was no longer being imposed on him, what happened was, he found his own way toward Krishna and started connecting. Now it's natural to have expectations, but when we are attached to our expectations, then it is like we are taking the free will of that person away. And when we do that, people become resentful. And that can spoil the relationship a lot. So what we understand here is, this is a theme I'll talk. Now, why is this person not being serious in bhakti? Or why is this person not being as serious as I am? Who knows? Maybe their previous life journey is different and your previous life journey is different. Not only previous life in the sense of the past lives, previous lifetimes. Even in this lifetime, each person's journey is different. So people are at a particular position and they are moving forward from that position. So humility in every relationship to some extent. I'll conclude with this point and we can have a couple of questions after that. And I will elaborate this point again in a future session if you get the time. In every relationship, there is accepting and there is expecting. That's the nature of relationship. Now, in every relationship, we accept the other person for who they are. But the purpose of a relationship is that through that relationship, whoever is that relationship grows. So if a teacher and a student, the student learns the subject better. And the teacher learns how to teach the subject better. Both grow through that relationship. That's how it works. Now, I put this as two extremes of a pendulum because if there is only accepting, then what happens is there is no better future. Because unless there is expectation, most people are not pushed. Most people don't feel pushed. They don't take responsibility to improve. They don't grow. But there's only expecting. Then there is no pleasant present. That means sometimes I care for your future. That's why I'm telling you this. But you care so much for my future that I feel you don't care for my present at all. Isn't it? So, if that starts happening, if there's only expecting and no accepting, then that person will feel very choked, that person will be suffocated. So, this is where people can get very easily alienated. In a healthy relationship, there's a balance of accepting and expecting. We accept the other person for who they are in some areas. And there are some areas in which we expect. And this may have to be found out. So for example, like I said, with respect to this devotee's son, for him, he was not very interested in increasing his rounds. But he was happy to come to the temple, he was happy to do some seva, happy to stay connected with devotees, happy to learn and participate in kirtans. So yeah, that expecting, he grew by that. Rather, he is accepting. So this, sometimes when we lack humility in relationships, then what happens is we impose our expectations on others. And when we do that, we can do it to some extent, especially if in a position of authority, we can force others to do something. We can intimidate them, we can scare them, but we can't do it for very long. As soon as that person gets a little autonomy, that person will get a little power, they just rebel at that time. So when Krishna, he does not use his godhood to impose his will on Arjuna. We could say that sometimes we have some power. That there's authority and there's the subordinate. So now we could say it's like this in many relationships. In some relationship it may be much more. But with respect to Krishna, it's straight like this. It means as Krishna has all the power, he's infinite. He's the ultimate authority, Krishna. And here we are the jiva, we are tiny. But Krishna does not use his godhood to thrust his opinion down our throat. If Krishna had wanted to do that, he could have finished the entire Bhagavad Gita in 6 words. I am God. obey me. Fight. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sampurnam. So, Krishna could have done that. But Krishna does not do that. Krishna persuades Arjuna. Krishna reasons with Arjuna. When Arjuna asks questions, Krishna gives reasonable answers. And at the end of it also, in 1863, Krishna says, Vimrishaita dasheshena yathechita. Now deliberate and do as you desire. In one sense, Krishna uses persuasion. What the Gita shows us is, the way to transform people is through persuasion. It is not through coercion. Coercion is we use force. We can use force in emergency situations. But if that's all that we are using, that will not work for very long. So yes, we accept. Some people, their spiritual growth right now means, okay, they may come to the temple and they may do some seva. And they're happy doing that seva. Accept that, appreciate that. But they may not be ready right now to maybe hear classes. Okay, they're ready to do seva, do some seva. Some people are famous in society, they have some influence, and they're ready to use that influence to do get some permissions for Krishna, get some positive, do some endorsements for Krishna. But beyond that, they're not ready to do that. That's fine. We accept them where they are. And they're ready to do some service? Yes, we can ask them for that service. And take it from there. So this is not, it's not only accepting. It's only accepting that that person will never go. But if it's only expecting, then that person will only go. They will not grow. So that balance is required. So how do we find that balance? It's like everybody needs a little pushing occasionally. So suppose, I don't know if you can imagine this is a car. Somebody is sitting inside a car. And in India, sometimes it happens. I haven't seen it happening in America here. Sometimes the car is not working. So, you call people, can you please push this car? I think in America, nobody will want to push the car also. They just get a tow, something like that. But suppose the car is not starting. And then you call a few people, can you please push the car? And a few people come along and they push the car. The person from inside is changing the gears, moving the wheels, and trying to get the car. And cooperatively, they get the car to move. And that's operation successful. But then sometimes people from outside are pushing the car, but the person inside is pressing the brakes. Or worse still, people from outside pushing the car and the person inside has gone to sleep. Then people outside, why should we push? Our energy is being wasted and the person is sleeping, you push them, that person will not go on the road, it will go off the road. So we can push people a little. Everybody needs a little push. Now we invite somebody to come to a temple, we invite somebody to do some seva, we invite somebody to maybe join an online program, whatever. But if they're not interested, then if we keep pushing them, it will not work. So we definitely need to push it. Inspire people, encourage, push in the sense of inspire, encourage, facilitate. But beyond that, don't push too much. As you push them, it will push them away. So we have expectations. This is what will attract this person. What will attract this person? Maybe this person can take it forward this way. But if they don't, we accept that this is where they are. Sometimes what happens, we open the door for somebody to come toward Krishna. And if they don't come toward Krishna, bang the door in their face, get out. No, we can open the door and keep the invitation for them. When they want, they will come. And we don't have to, we give them time. When we say give them time means it doesn't mean we give them our time. No, it's not that if somebody is not interested, we have to spend hours and hours with that person. What it means, give them time means, let them take their time. Yeah, we have to follow Krishna's principle. If somebody is not interested, we really don't have the time to spend hours and hours with that person. Yeah, if they're interested, yes. But if not, okay. We don't discriminate, we reciprocate. If you're interested, I'm available for you. If you're not, then okay, I'm still your well-wisher, but it will be in terms of your interest. So, humility means we understand where the person is and we reciprocate. If you are interested, yes, I'm there for you. If we don't discriminate, then we either will be naive. If we discriminate too much, then we'll become judgmental. But in between is we reciprocate. Their capacity to reciprocate. That is what is humility. Understanding different people are at different levels, and our purpose is to take them one step forward from where they are. If they want to go multiple steps forward, wonderful, we are there. If they can't take multiple steps forward, okay, let them take one step forward. And whatever way that they want to take the steps forward, that's fine. So Krishna says, Mama Vartamanu Vartante Manushyaha Partha Sarvashaha. All people are on my path. Everybody is on the journey toward Krishna. Everybody is going in different ways, at different speeds. We help them forward in whatever way we can. So I'll summarize what I discussed. The first point I started was that people's present position, materially or spiritually, it is determined by their past karma. By karma, I mean even their past actions. It could be even past devotional actions. So some people may be at a very advanced level, some people may be at a beginning level. So if we recognize this, if we have this understanding, then what happens is humility means that we see their present position, but we also understand that their present position is not their permanent position. That means, another way of putting it is that we see the appearance of the person, but we understand they have a substance beyond the appearance. Sometimes some people's externals may not seem very spiritually conducive, but they may be. Their appearance is bigger than their substance. So if Prabhupada had gone by appearance, he would have just rejected all the people who were part of the counterculture, the hippies. But he saw the substance is their souls, parts of Krishna, and they have a spiritual spark. So then here I talked about when we are dealing with people, when we are relating with people, then we can make judgments. If there is, on one side, if there is no judgment, then we will be naive. And if you are judgmental, then we will become very hard-hearted. Judgmental means, we discussed that, we affix a label on the person, not an opinion about my opinion about that person, but it's a label on that person. It's a person is reduced to that label, and we are also considering that label to be permanent. In between, we focus on what is favorable and unfavorable for us. Okay, what is favorable for me? What is favorable for that person? Based on that, we try to understand and evaluate. And then that same point, while relating with others, we discuss that we find the balance between accepting and what was the other part? Expecting. If you are only expecting, that person will feel strained and burdened. If you are only accepting, the person will not grow. So we need a healthy balance between the two of them. And we discussed various examples for that. So another aspect of humility here was that we can have expectations, but we are not at no attachment to the expectations. Okay, this is the path for you to move forward. But if you're not ready to move forward, fine. I'm there for you when you choose to move forward. We understand that everybody is on a multi-life journey and they will move gradually toward Krishna. Some people move rapidly, some people will move gradually. So we are there to help them move forward in various areas of their life. So that verse I was talking, 4:11, Mama Vartamanu Vartante Manushyaha Partha Sarvashaha. So that can be translated as, from your place, at your pace, access Krishna's grace. From your place, at your pace, the willingness to offer Krishna's grace to people from their place and at their pace, that is humility in our relationship with others. Thank you very much. Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Hello. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My question was like, for example, if a certain person, he discriminates a lot and he thinks that the person in front of them are inferior in terms of bhakti, does that mean that that particular person has a lot of spiritual ego?
If somebody thinks that the other person is inferior to me in bhakti, then does that mean that the person has spiritual ego? And the person has ego, not spiritual ego. Spiritual ego is more, there is pride in the glory of Krishna. Krishna is such a wonderful Lord, and that Lord has accepted me as his servant. That is spiritual ego. Otherwise, it's just ego. And the ego makes people go. Ego makes Krishna go away from us. So that is not healthy. So now, in an objective sense, we could say that, okay, I know more about Krishna. Maybe my attraction to Krishna is right now more. Sometimes objectively that is true. But so if somebody has greater spiritual advancement, sometimes, at least based on what we have observed of others, we can say this person is more advanced, this person is less advanced. But a devotee sees this as a matter of blessing, not as a matter of my right. It is something which has been given to me, and therefore I am grateful for it. It's not something which is my right. No, I was also a materialistic person before devotees came in my life. So when we see it this way, we see our spiritual advancement as a matter of blessing. This brings humility. Here, as a matter of right, it makes us proud. I have earned this. Yeah, we may have practiced bhakti, we may have done sadhana, but that does not mean that automatically we will become advanced. This is by Krishna's mercy we become advanced. So seeing that I am more spiritually advanced than others, that itself may be an objective assessment, but the subjective effect of that assessment, that will depend on how that person sees it. If I may say that if you consider spiritual advancement to be like wealth, now person A may be wealthier than person B, but person A can say that, okay, assume that there are two kids who are going to school, and one of them has a very wealthy father, the other person doesn't have much of a wealthy father. Now this person can say, they can just have an ego and they can feel proud. But the person who's the wealthy kid, but if there's a little more reflective, they'll think, I haven't earned this wealth. I was just born in a wealthy family. You can feel more grateful to the parents, rather than just proud of oneself. That is the way of looking at things. It's conducive.
Just to add to what he's saying, I have a different question. How do we deal with such people?
Okay. How do we deal with
People who
are proud of their spiritual advancement?
Because we are essentially judging someone, saying, okay, you are not and I am, or somebody else is doing that. I am on the receiving end. How do I deal with this?
So we are receiving, on the receiving end where people tell us that we are inferior to them. Like that? Okay. See, ultimately, we have to find that association which is conducive for our spiritual advancement. Sometimes that devotee who may make us feel like that, but that devotee may be good at a particular service. We want to learn that service. Maybe that devotee is still a good musician and we want to learn music. Sometimes with the devotee, we tolerate that. Or if we don't have any particular service with that devotee, then we find some other devotee who inspires us. If we think that that person is a devotee, that person should not be judgmental like that. Well, yes, in principle it is true. But in practice, we are all fallible people. We are all in the spiritual journey. Very, very few people who are at the perfected stage. If we expect, if we are looking for a community where everyone is perfect, we will never find such a community. It doesn't exist. And even if such a community existed, we would not get admission there. We are not perfect. There's an American comedian who said that I would never join any club that was ready to admit me. So that's why we have to recognize that devotees will have deficiencies. And we try to find those devotees with whom, not that they don't have any deficiencies, but those their whatever limitations or deficiencies they have, they don't grate us too much. They don't agitate us too much. And then we move forward in that association. Yes.
Another.
We'll come back to you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So nice. Prabhu, can I have a question from the morning class? So the question is, you talked about the soul and the mind. Soul is moving up and mind is somewhere here. And we need the mind also to go to along with it, right? But most of the times, if I understand correctly, the soul is wanting to chant, but the mind is somewhere else. It wants to go to a movie or somewhere else. So, and that's happening all the time. Most of the things the soul wants to do, go to Krishna, and mind says, no, this is where you go. How do we balance out, or how do we force the mind to go with the soul?
Okay, how do we force the mind to go with the soul? It's like, if we consider...
First of all, Prabhu, is my understanding correct that soul wants to chant? And
I'll explain that. Yes, it's true. So let's consider that the things which we want, let's consider we as the soul, or we as our higher self, we as our intelligence, whatever it is. There's a part of us which wants to go higher, which wants to go up spiritually. And there are things our mind wants. So it's like, consider a parent-child relationship. Now now the mother wants the child to grow up nicely. So she wants the child to eat healthy food. But the child wants to eat all tasty food. Give the child freedom, the child will just eat cookies morning, afternoon, evening. Or eat chocolates morning, afternoon, evening. Now, it's if these two circles, healthy food and tasty food, they were identical, life would be so easy. But unfortunately, they're not identical. However, that does not mean that there is no overlap. When the mother is, say, making food for the child, her child, she's observing the child. Okay, what does my child like? And somehow there's some food that is healthy, and the child likes that food also. And the mother will actually make more of that for the child. The mother doesn't want the child to be unhappy while eating. Isn't it? That is not the purpose. It's like caring for the present and caring for the future. I want my child to grow up healthy, but I also want my child to be happy right now. So we find that balance. So like that, we can say there are things that are spiritually good for us, and there are things that feel good for us right now. So we need to find if it's a Venn diagram, we need to find the intersection between the two. So we may not like, say, japa so much, but maybe we like to hear classes, or maybe we like to participate in kirtans. Maybe we like to come in temple and do some seva. So that is where there is an intersection between bhakti and Krishna. And from that intersection, so yes, there are some times when there will be some things which we don't like to do, which our mind doesn't like to do, but we have to get them to. We have to push ourselves to do it. But over a period of time, we need to find ourselves that intersection zone. The whole principle of Bhagavad Gita is serve according to your swabhava. That Shreyan Swadharmo Vikuna. Now, what does swabhava mean? This Krishna is talking that in terms of the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. That is the swabhava. Now, that is not the swabhava of the Atma. We can switch that off. That is not the swabhava of the soul. That is the swabhava of the man, of the subtle body. It is the soul, it is the subtle body, the mind, which by past karma may have Brahmanical inclination or a Vaishya inclination or Kshatriya inclination or whatever. But Krishna is saying, use that to do your occupation. So the point is, we have to take responsibility that there are times when we may have to function in this zone. So being in this zone alone is austerity. Now, being in this zone, you could say, things are mine, this would be folly. To use a more polite word, this would be stupidity. Okay? But in this zone, if we can be, it will be joy. So, if we want to find that joy and pursue that joy, that's why some things, yes, we have to do which the mind does not like to do. So, for example, if I like singing, suppose somebody likes singing, they say, I don't want to do kirtan, I don't want to do any japa, I just want to do kirtan. Okay, you do japa whatever you can, but whenever you have spare time, you don't have to chant extra rounds. Whenever you have spare time, you can hear some kirtans, you can learn some tunes, you can sing more. So, in your idle time or in your relaxation time, you can do that activity more, which is in the domain of joy. And by that relationship with Krishna will develop. And as that relationship with Krishna develops, as that attraction to Krishna develops, then other activities in relationship with Krishna will also become easier. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Mataji, you had a question? Mataji, shall we make it last question? Mataji? Last question? Or?
I actually have, okay, I'll do one. So if someone is inclined to spirituality and, at the same time, they want to grow in spiritual life, but then we also see what is hindering them from growing into the spiritual life. So how do we, and then you said we can engage them in different services or something to help them, uplift them. But then they get a bad experience even with that service or something. So how do we, and we cannot preach to them directly because, maybe they're not ready to listen to us at this point yet. So how do we still uplift them from where they are without, making them feel inferior, even though it's not the intention?
How do we help people without making them feel inferior? I think it's overall in how we interact with people. In a particular area, Like if there's a student-teacher relationship, clearly the student is inferior to the teacher. It means that the teacher knows the subject, student doesn't know the subject. But overall, how the teacher deals with the student, that determines whether the student feels valued and encouraged to learn, or the student feels devalued and disrespected, disheartened. So it's sometimes we think that, actually this is a subject I'll talk more in tomorrow's session, that if we consider each one of us is this soul, mind and body. Soul, mind and body. Sometimes we think I will only connect as a soul with that soul. But people exist presently as embodied souls, integrated beings. So we need to connect with them at the level of the mind. We need to connect with them at the level of the body. Connect with them at the level of the body means if we meet someone, we treat them courteously. When Srila Prabhupada would go on morning walks in America, if people would greet him, Prabhupada would say good morning. Prabhupada wouldn't say Hare Krishna. He could say Hare Krishna if people knew. Otherwise, people would say that you just be courteous with them. Sometimes we have to establish a human connection before we establish a spiritual connection. So if we do that, once people feel that, yeah, this person is a nice person, this person is polite, this person is well behaved, then they open up to more of what we are telling them. So how exactly that will happen, how exactly that human connection can be established, that sometimes requires creativity, that sometimes requires creativity, resourcefulness. So we have and Srila Prabhupada, when he would meet different kinds of people, he would not just be telling everyone chant Hare Krishna. Yes, that was his ultimate purpose. The Prabhupada would talk with different people in different ways. And because he would talk with different people in different ways, that's how he was able to attract people accordingly. So establish a human connection before we seek a spiritual connection. The 6th canto, when King Chitraketu is very agony struck because his son Harshashoka has been killed. No, I think before that. Because he does not have a son. At that time, when Angirushi comes to meet him, the first thing the sage asks him is everything well with you? Is your family doing well? Are your ministers guiding you? Are your citizens happy? You see, there is no spiritual inquiry, but just a human inquiry. You are in this role, and how are things for you? Through that human inquiry, a first level of courteous connection is established. And then after that, spiritual. Now, of course, if we are in a direct spiritual forum, then somebody has come for a spiritual class, if somebody has a philosophical question, at that time say, okay, how are you? How is your life? No, I have a philosophical question, tell you that. So we have to be according to time, place, circumstance. But generally, if we are in a more like a long-term relationship with someone, or we have a multi-dimensional relationship with someone, they are a neighbor, they are a family member, they are colleagues, they are friends, we have other aspects of it. We need to connect with them at a human level. So then after that, we can connect with them at a spiritual level.
So let's say we have that human level connection. We learned that and we developed that. But at the same time, yet, because of the previous experience, we don't know where, we built the human connection, but we don't know if they're ready to listen to the little push from the spiritual connection. So how do we find that part?
I think that you have to experiment. Don't be so timid that we'll think, experiment, offer them, talk with them about something. Generally, we think of Krishna consciousness. Okay, I'll not prolong this answer. We'll talk about this tomorrow. But generally, the idea is that it's no harm in exploring. I went to this talk and this is a point I heard. And sometimes people say that, whether they respond, they say whether they're interested or not interested. No, I have this music or we had this activity. Let's talk about it. If the person shows they have no interest, and then if you keep talking about it, that will be a problem. But if they're not showing much interest, they are interested, then you can take it forward. So explore.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Hare
Srimad
Krishna.
Bhagavad Gita
Dandavat
ki,
pranam.
Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Sai Gaur Premanand.